I'm Sammy.
And I'm Nicole.
And we are Spooky Sleuths.
Hi, guys.
Hello.
Welcome to Spooky Sleuths. We're setting up the SLS camera.
You don't want to explain in these videos that we're not professionals. We're just from West Virginia. Don't cuss.
We are so excited for today's episode.
Yes.
Because we are going to discuss Madison Seminary, where we just got back from. It was wild, but first
And cold.
Yeah, very cold, very cold. But first, we're going to let Sammy give us a little bit of a background history.
Yeah. Madison Seminary is located in Madison, Ohio. The building was finished in 1859 for the purpose of being a private institute of higher education. Up to 150 students could be housed at the seminary at this time. But as the 1800s progressed, so did the access to public education. This caused the demand for private seminaries to decrease. Many graduates of the institution are said to have had very distinguished careers. There just aren't very many records from that time period.
The historian we met, though, did tell us she has binders on binders of records.
She has been searching for years on
to get any frame of reference. So it seems that there are some, like in newspapers, but we don't have
the capacity to do that.
The capacity or the access that she has, and we didn't have time to go through them.
And she works with the owner, is writing a book about the place, so she has a lot more access to things than we do. Madison Seminary was purchased by the Ohio Women's Relief Corps in 1891 and renamed Madison Home. The Ohio Women's Relief Corps was an auxiliary of the Grand Army of the Republic. They purchased the building to transform it into a home for Civil War Army nurses and the families of soldiers. This was part of President Harrison's promise of pensions for Civil War veterans. One of the residents, Elizabeth Stiles, was the wife of one of Jesse and Frank James' victims. After her husband was murdered, Abraham Lincoln recruited her to be a spy for the North. During her time as a spy, she would be disguised as a grandmother and as a nurse in Confederate hospitals, which she did with her granddaughter. She was actually arrested once under the suspicion of being a Union spy, but after the interrogation, she had them, the Confederates, convinced that she was a Confederate spy. When they released her...
She was good.
She was. So good that when they released her, they thought she was one of them. So they gave her a horse and gun and food. She came to live in Madison Home in 1895 and passed away there in 1898. And our tour guide actually told us that Abraham Lincoln wrote her a letter personally thanking her for what she did as a Union spy because she was so good at her job.
And he also told us that she was actually there when her husband was murdered.
Mm-hmm.
And he was murdered because he said that he was with the North, like he was with the Union.
Yep. In 1904, the Ohio Women's Relief Corps couldn't afford the operating costs of the building, so they donated it to the state of Ohio. The state of Ohio renamed the building to, are you ready for this? Home of the Ohio Soldiers, Sailors, Marines, their wives, mothers, widows, and Army nurses.
Why is that so long? Was veterans not a term back then?
I don't know. That just seems awful wordy. How do you fit that on a sign?
I don't know. That's not... The sign they have there now could never fit that.
The home, as I am referring to it, was in operation for decades as a place for widows, mothers, and children of Ohio's veterans. As of 1915, 249 residents total had lived in the home to date. Madison Home participated in the Welfare Department's rehabilitation program by employing paroled inmates. An employee of Madison Home named Dolly Hamilton was a paroled inmate sent to work in the home in 1939. Dolly was convicted on manslaughter and abortion charges after a 15-year-old died due to receiving an abortion from Dolly. Abortions were illegal at this time, and Dolly confessed to performing several of them over the years. And when she was paroled, she went and worked there. Which, as nurses, If we did something like that and went to prison, our nursing license would be revoked today.
Yeah, we wouldn't be allowed to be a nurse anymore.
Yeah. In 1962, however, the home was transferred to the Ohio Department for the next 2 decades. The building would be home to Ohio Women's Reformatory inmates, mentally disabled women, psychiatric patients from Cleveland State Hospital and Apple Creek State Hospital, and Madison Township administrative offices. It was in operation until 1993, when Madison Township officials left the building vacant. While in operation, the welfare director investigated reports of inmates labeled as trustees, who were the well-behaved and trustworthy inmates, but they were having drinking parties and sex escapades in areas of the facility.
And we had learned while we were there that actually they were running like a ring
Yeah.
there. It wasn't just,
Just like popping in random rooms having sex. It was a whole sex ring. There is an adjoining cemetery to Madison Seminary called Middle Ridge Cemetery. It has been in operation since 1811. The cemetery was used to bury the residents of the home. The Ohio Women's Relief Corps did not have to file the township's burial records. They kept their own records, and unless a family of a resident covered expenses for their loved one to be buried elsewhere, many residents were buried in that cemetery. All the graves have identical headstones, which are small and made of rounded gray marble, with the deceased first and last names and their birth and death years. Residents were buried in the cemetery until 1946. In fact, Elizabeth Stiles, the Union spy that we mentioned earlier, is buried in that cemetery.
We walked through that cemetery, but it was dark. It was snowing. Nat was a trooper. Me, Sammy, and Nat were the only ones that got out to venture through the cemetery at 3:30 in the morning.
Yes, and to be clear, we got permission to be there at 3:30 in the morning because cemeteries are closed after dark, but we got permission from the owner.
But we couldn't find them, but whenever they say they were identical,
they're identical. The home is currently listed on the National Register of Historic Places and is privately owned by Adam Kimmel. Adam purchased the property in 2016 and renamed it back to Madison Seminary. He now opens the seminary for investigations. And like we mentioned, we did our investigation. So if you're listening, make sure you head over to our YouTube channel to see some videos.
And if you're on our YouTube channel watching us, just wait.
So let's talk about some of the paranormal activity that other investigators experience. Investigators tend to get varying paranormal activity in the seminary, including shadow figures, odd feelings, phantom sounds, disembodied voices, and apparitions. The first shadow figure seen is that of a young boy, Stephen. He's reported to be wandering around the Wittenmeyer Cottage section of the building.
Now that section is the one where they house the wives of the Civil War. Okay.
Yep. Other shadow figures are also reported. They're just not as well defined as the young boy. They'll often peek out of doorways or drift down the hallways. There's a set of spirits in the attic that they call the peekers because they just peek out of their doors and come back, but they're like twin spirits. The odd feelings that investigators experience are often unexplainable. These are felt by both investigators and employees, and they're described as a sense of dread or pressure. The phantom sounds that are experienced vary around the facility. They include doors slamming and chains rattling. Disembodied voices are what I often find the most interesting. The first one of note is that of a young girl named Sarah, who was a former resident of the building. Investigators have experienced her voice in her room. The best way to hear Sarah is to leave her a gift or toy. Whole conversations can also be heard in the old office spaces. These disembodied voices are not a new finding, as even when the building was operational, employees and night shift guards would report hearing voices when they were there alone. EVPs, or electronic voice phenomenon, have been collected numerous times by investigators with the sounds and voices that can be heard throughout the building. I also mentioned that investigators experience apparitions. The most notable is that of none other than Elizabeth Stiles. She roams around the Wittenmeyer Cottage section of the building. She appears as a smoky white apparition in a long 1800 era's dress. She will often communicate with investigators and mediums who come to speak with her.
What is so crazy, and I mean, we'll get into our experience there, but whenever you walk into what they have designated as Elizabeth's room, there's an old dress leaned up against like this dresser, and it throws you for a second if you're not looking for it. Like, both of us jumped when we walked in the room.
Well, let's just get into our experience.
Yeah, so Madison Seminary is about 3.5 hours from where we are located. We took the drive and encountered some heavy snow on the way, but we made it safely. We grabbed some dinner and then headed over to the seminary. Whenever you pull up, it looks massive, and you pass right by the cemetery that is connected to it. We walked inside and met the owner, Adam, his main historian, and then our tour guide. The historian kind of went over a few things like we talked about earlier in this episode, like our favorite spy, Elizabeth, and then us and our tour guide went upstairs. He told us that he normally doesn't do the historical part, so he attempted to give us some history, but we told him not to worry about it, just focus on the paranormal. That's why we were there. Then we got everything set up. Clint, Kayla, Natalie, and Alex went and set our cameras up, which unfortunately, due to the lack of Wi-Fi throughout the building, we didn't get anything.
We even tried to use our phone hotspots to try to get the cameras to connect, and they just wouldn't. It was too big of a building.
Sammy and I ran to a gas station to grab some snacky snacks and drinks, and then came back. To our dismay, upon our return, when we started grabbing our equipment and all made it to the basement, everything was dead or dying.
Yeah.
Our REM pod started making crazy noises, which at first we thought was crazy activity, but the batteries were just dying.
Probably from that Hinsdale house.
Probably. Which, if you haven't watched our Hinsdale video, go check that one out too.
You'll see why our REM pod was dead after that.
So we ran upstairs the one time to get those batteries, and then everyone else had kind of trickled off, and we sat down to do a spirit box session, and the spirit box was dead. Our SLS camera, that was a brand new piece of equipment that we were so excited to use, was already down to 47%. Could not get it to charge.
That was the first time we were using it.
Sammy and I, went up to the entry area to get the batteries for the spirit box. Sammy walked by the piano that they have, and I watched a page of the hymnal book they had there open all the way, touch the candle in front of it, and then float back down. Sammy saw my face and looked fast and saw it float back down. We tried to recreate this. The first time when Sammy walked by, same speed, same distance, we got nothing. Waited 5 seconds, and then we both saw the page flip up and float back down.
So there was no wind at that time.
We kept trying to get it to do that again and again. We got closer. We moved faster. We could not get it to act exactly as it had. When we told our group about it later, they walked over to it, tried to fan the pages. We could not recreate it.
And there isn't even heat in this building, so there was no airflow. All the doors and windows were closed. The heater wasn't running.
Yeah, there was no wind. There was nothing. This page just swung forward.
It not even like that, just the one page.
Came all the way out to the candle and flung back, and it's on Bring Them In. And we have tried to reenact it with Sammy walking by, and it's not. Sammy, go ahead and try again. Nothing. Nothing.
That is insane. I can't believe I just saw that with my own eyes.
I'm so sad we didn't catch it on camera.
No.
There was no explanation for that we could find. And the hymn was called Bring Them In. Unfortunately, we were not able to get the pages flipping on camera.
So frustrating.
And now we completely understand why you see people on YouTube like, you're never going to believe this. This just happened off camera. It's like, yeah, I get it now. considering the majority of the activity we actually did experience there, we didn't get on film.
Right.
But we are going to tell you about it. We changed the batteries and went back to the basement for an Estes method session. The rest of our group went upstairs, and it was just Sammy, myself, and Dave. Dave was making some sussy comments, telling us that he was going to clap them ghost cheeks. If you knew our...
You knew our Dave.
You will eventually get to know our group, but I'll roll some footage here just to give a good explanation. Is there anybody in here tonight that wants to talk to us?
I wouldn't. I was singing.
You feel free to come and chat with us. We're here in the basement.
I swear I heard Nicole.
Thy name is Nicole. That's Sammy. That's Dave.
Somebody, something.
That gave no frame of reference. If you're down here, you can knock on something, shut a door, give us some sign that you're here.
Unusual?
Sammy is able to hear you come through her headphones. You can speak to her through that box.
They're talking really fast. I have to slow it down.
How many are in this room with us tonight?
A victim of...
Was this the area where they said those rapes happened, or was that over?
I don't think that was in here.
If you are, I am.
No, that was upstairs, like, with the police section, wasn't it?
I think.
I'll say.
Y'all say what?
Me.
What's your name? You know my name. What's yours?
Nothing much.
Are you male or female?
That I'm...
How long have you been here?
Off the bed to one.
Let's go.
Where's it?
1,000.
1,000. If that was the answer to my question, I was severely delayed.
Yeah.
Is anybody with our friends upstairs?
Oh. Oh.
5 go cheeks.
Is there anything you'd like to tell us?
I'm proud. Something.
Are you proud to be here?
Go cheeks.
Okay.
Here's something.
I'm awesome. I know. Thanks.
Is there anything else you'd like to say to us?
After every noose,
Oh,
All right.
that took a dark turn. But a song came through the spirit box just at the perfect time. I'll insert that clip as well. It was so funny there. But then we went over to the room they call the Hole, and I'll kind of let Sammy explain that backstory.
Yeah, so the legend behind the Hole is that someone at Madison Seminary, I believe it was a worker, was murdered, and the perpetrator buried her underneath the floor. And so they actually dug up the floor, which I don't know, I can't remember if it was related to that legend. They were trying to see if it was true or if there was an issue with the building, but there is a big hole in that floor.
Like, you can see dirt. Like, you can climb down into this.
Yeah, it's just guarded by a little guardrail, but you can get in it.
So we were down there, and I decided to go into the Estes method first in this room. This room gave us kind of like heebie-jeebies, a little bit of heaviness, but really all night long, for the duration I was there, the only time I felt like truly heavy was whenever we went up to the attic.
The attic, yep. In fact, me, you, and my aunt, Kayla,
all made that
all
comment.
felt like that pressure on our chest.
So I went into the Estes method, and I was, answering whatever I was hearing coming through the speakers, through the radio. And I'm also hearing impaired. I wear a hearing aid in my left ear. And as I can differentiate between what's coming through my hearing aid versus what's coming through the headphones. They sound completely different.
Right.
Something came through my hearing aid and said, "Get out." It was very loud. It was very obvious, and it made me jump. I threw my headphones off.
Day? Stranger?
You're a stranger.
We're not strangers, we're friends.
Break these chains?
Are you trapped here?
Organization?
Are you trapped in this organization?
Same.
What's your name?
No. Do it.
Why won't you tell us your name? Are you a female?
A little bit?
Same.
Dave.
What?
Were you a resident here?
A day old? Doug?
Is your name Doug?
Dirty Doug.
Then I saw her.
Now I'm a believer.
Why don't you look?
Look where? Can you tell Nicole where you are or make a noise wherever you are?
Don't stop. Wake up.
We're awake. We're here with you. Do you like that people come and talk to you?
Oh, hey, somebody just came through my hearing aid.
We're baby content creators. Like, we're just learning how all this works. And she immediately stopped recording instead
Yeah.
of getting my full reaction.
One day I will get that content creator gene.
We will.
Inside the hole.
So I am hearing impaired and I wear a hearing aid. And I just had somebody come through my hearing aid and say, "Get out." And it was very distinctively not coming through the spirit box. It was directly into my hearing aid.
We are in the hole is what they call it. The legend with this room is that someone was murdered and buried in this hole in the ground.
But so after that, I was done being under the Estes method. I think it's the only time I did that the
Yeah.
time I was there.
Well, and Dave and I didn't hear that. with our own ears. But we've, like Nicole has noticed, that your hearing is better. You can hear things that we can't hear, like when we're in crowds and things like that.
Yeah, which I'm still getting used to it. So it's like eventually I'm sure I will be used to like all the background noise and be able to filter it. But right now I can't. So then Dave climbed down into the hole and everything to do an Estes method. And everything that came through during his session was very depressive, very sad.
Yeah.
I mean, the word sad.
Literally sad.
Yeah, the word sad came through. Run, get out, help me. Like all those, and it felt weird. And that was right after Sammy had explained to Alex and Natalie, who had joined us at that time, what like the purpose of the hole was.
Yeah, the legend around it. Our tour guide told us once you start talking about that, things do take a darker turn.
Yeah, he said that there had even been reports of that whole room going dark. Like you can't see the person next to you. You can't see the stoplights outside. We didn't experience that part, but we felt the
energy changed.
Yes. So after we were done in the hole, we walked back over to the dining room where we were hoping to contact the spirit they call Grandpa. Grandpa is a trickster. He's a little naughty. Like he'll follow you into the bathroom, but if you tell him not to follow you, he won't.
He's a respectful trickster grandpa.
Right. So at first we were just using our, we wanted to use our dowsing rods because they're one of my favorite things to use. And so we set up to do that. We didn't really get anything to come across the dowsing rods at all, but our EMF reader the whole time was jumping. Green to orange to green to yellow. It was just nonstop. We moved our electronics from around it thinking maybe that was it, and it still was jumping. So at one point, Sammy asked, do you want to communicate with us? And it jumped to red. And she's like, do you want to communicate with us through the radio? And it jumped to red. So Natalie then went into an Estes method session. And she didn't really get a whole lot through that. Afterwards, we went upstairs to the old Civil War residence and we all sat around a dining room table and we attempted an EVP session, but we didn't really get anything on it. But then Alex became very nauseous. Now, she had been nauseous earlier in the night and wound up vomiting, but wanted to keep trying to push through. But when she got nauseous again, I went downstairs with Alex. But they stayed. And do you want to kind of explain what happened to you guys up there?
Yeah, so we were using our Spirit Talker app around the table. We had tried EVPs. They didn't really get anything on those. So we were using the Spirit Talker app, and the word satanic came through. Not unusual on that app. It is what it is. But right after the word satanic came through clearly on the application, it was repeated in the bedroom or the dining room, whatever the room was we were in. We were around a dining room table in a bedroom.
Yeah.
But it repeated itself, but it wasn't the same voice as the Spirit Talker app. We tried to debunk it, listening to Siri say satanic. Maybe Siri, we bumped her phone and Siri picked it up. No, nothing. So we don't have an explanation for that, but it was scary.
And we've used that app enough to know what that voice sounds like. So when you say it's a different voice, I fully believe that.
Yeah, we can clearly, all three of us heard it and knew that it was not that voice. So it was a little jarring. Like, why do you got to pick that word to repeat?
Yeah. And then you guys came downstairs, right?
Yep.
And then I told you guys that I was just going to take Alex to a hotel room for a couple hours because she was not feeling right.
Yeah, and we don't really want to take any chances.
Yeah, you never know. Whenever people start getting nauseous and vomiting whenever you're out investigating, it throws some red flags. So I wanted to get her out of there for a little bit.
Yeah. So after Nicole left, the rest of our group decided to go up to the second floor. This is where the staff would reside when the building was used for inmates and the mentally ill. The spirit of the superintendent Otis is said to roam this floor. Otis is mean. So our tour guide made sure to let Clint and Dave know that they were free to bully this spirit. We went into Otis's office and tried to provoke him to come out, but he did not show. So we decided to go to what they built in the seminary called the Devil's Toy Box.
I'm so bummed. I missed the toy box.
It's a 6x6x6 room that is essentially a closet, but it's covered with mirrors from floor to ceiling. On the walls everywhere is mirrors.
Like, the floor is mirrored, the ceiling, the whole thing.
And if you know anything about mirrors facing each other, you know that room is just one giant portal.
It's a vortex.
In here, Kayla did her first ever Estes session, and she really didn't get much to come through, but it was her first one. It takes a few times to learn what you're looking for. So after Kayla's Estes session, Natalie decided to try it. And almost immediately, Natalie was getting results.
Does this make sense?
No.
Okay.
Do you want to talk to Nat?
I love her.
Ooh.
You love Natalie?
Are you guys best friends?
What's your name?
Note to Nicole.
Won't you go to bed with me?
She will not. Note to Nicole, the air you're seeing is just my cold breath. Or the mist.
What are we waiting for?
You to say something?
Is your girlfriend here?
Make out.
We got a sexual one here going on.
We are alive.
How many? I don't know how she hears all that. I couldn't hear anything.
The rest of everybody?
Who's
Oh,
everybody?
Oh, that was. Hold on. Oh, that made. Hold on. Sorry. There's like really weird music.
This was one of the best Estes sessions I have ever been a part of or seen online.
I'm so bummed.
Everything we asked her was getting answered almost immediately, and it all made sense. Now, the questions we were asking were general, like, how many people are in here? The spirit would say, a lot. We'd ask, is there anything we can help you with? The spirit would say, I'm trapped, or break my chains. And at one point it was talking to us about games. We asked what kind of games it liked to play. Like, it brought up that it liked to play games. So we said, what do you like to play? And it said sports. Like, intelligent responses. It was really interesting.
Can you tell us your name?
Are you a resident here or a worker
Won't tell.
here?
It's
That makes
probably
Or
me.
Did you come through the portal?
No.
So you live here.
You won't be able to talk to me.
Why can't we talk to you?
We're literally talking
Does
to you
it
right
help?
now.
It would be helpful if you would talk to us, yes.
One thing.
What's one thing you want to tell us?
I don't know.
Anything we can help you with? Do you need help?
An arsonist.
We can't help you with that. We are law-abiding citizens for the most part.
You
Yeah.
never. Oh, I couldn't really hear it. No. What up?
Do you want us to help you?
Yes.
With what? What can we do to help you?
People?
The people that come here? Do you want them to stop coming here?
Uh-oh.
Hmm.
Something's on this side of it.
Do you
No.
want people to stop coming here? Are
you upset that we're here?
W.
Oh, man.
Oh, God.
Do you want us to leave?
Around me.
Who's around you?
While we were conducting this Estes session, Clint thought he had heard a voice in the hallway whisper, "Hey." None of us heard it because rest of us were in the closet. Next up is Sarah's room. Earlier in the night, Alex had left $7 on Sarah's bed as an offering to her. Both Alex and Natalie swear that Alex left her pair of gloves on the bed. But when we walked into the room, the gloves were in the middle of the floor. I decided to do an Estes method session, and from that session, I was saying bounce or play. So Kayla decided to throw a ping pong ball down the hallway.
It's so cool she thought to bring those. I never would have thought.
I never think to bring those either.
No, but they're light enough. It's said that it's easier for them to maneuver something light like that than
a cat ball that has a battery and lights in it.
Yeah, like a lot of people think that, you go ghost hunting and it's going to be like slamming doors, and that's just not realistic. That takes a lot of energy.
Right. Not saying that it doesn't happen.
It's just not
common.
Yeah.
If you want to go ghost hunting just to see a ghost slam doors, you're going to be very disappointed and feel like you wasted your money. You have to have realistic expectations with it. Well, Miss Kayla threw that
back
ball.
To the ping pong ball. Sorry, I got up on a tangent.
She threw that ball all the way to the other side of the hallway. The ball stopped. She came back into the room and sat down. And Clint, Kayla, Natalie, and Dave all heard that ball roll back down the hallway. Dave went out to the hallway to see where the ball was. It was right outside the door. We threw several more balls and attempted to repeat the situation, but we didn't get it to happen again. And I'm really upset that I was doing the Estes method and missed it. My aunt was trying to tell me, "Hey, stop talking. Hey, stop talking."
But she didn't know to
and I
reach over.
Yes. And then I felt someone grab my leg. I'm like, did someone grab my leg? Well, after Sarah's room, we went up to the attic, and that's where a lot of the asylum patients were housed, and that's where their day room was. Also, the doctor of the facility, the surgeon, which is the only name he will answer to, is also up there.
How egotistical. I am the surgeon.
He had his office up there, and he hated women.
Naturally.
So 3 women just piled into his room. I tried to get Dave to get in the stirrups, but he wouldn't.
Party pooper.
I know. We were all standing there in the quiet. Out of nowhere, we heard a loud metal dragging sound. And it sounded like it was coming from beneath us. So we sat there and we were quiet some more to see if it would repeat itself. And it did. So we went downstairs to the 3rd floor to the room directly underneath where the surgeon's room is. And there's a desk with a rolling chair. And the rolling chair was pulled away from the desk. So we're like, all right, let's figure out if this is it. Dave and Natalie went back upstairs to the surgeon's room. And we pulled the chair out, pushed it back in, pulled it out, pushed it back in. Dave and Natalie said that the sound was the same sound we heard. It was just much louder when we had heard it earlier. So we're thinking maybe if the spirit sat in the chair, put some pressure on it, that would have increased the sound.
Yeah, that makes sense.
The next place we went is back to the basement. All of us were in a room in the basement. And in this room we were in, the spirit prefers women.
Opposite of the surgeon's room.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. You go from the basement where they love women to the attic where he hates women. So this spirit will try to lure the men out of the room so they can get to the women. And while we were all in there, we heard conversations happening in the hallway. Full back and forth conversations. So it was like they were trying to lure the men out to go see what was going on. That we really didn't get too much more evidence. Nicole came back and picked us up. We got all of our stuff together and we went over to the cemetery.
Yeah. We didn't spend much time there, but we did get out, look around, realize that our research was correct. Every gravestone almost looks identical.
We realized how hard it was going to be to find that.
Yeah, in the dark, like, we were not able to find Elizabeth's grave.
We're not good in cemeteries, by the way, because we looked forever for Ed and Lorraine Warrens just to go pay our respects. And
we missed it. We were in the right graveyard. We missed it. We left and came back to this graveyard like 3 times trying to find it.
In the pouring rain.
And
now this one, we were trying to find Elizabeth's to pay respect to her as well. We couldn't find it in the pouring snow. We're not good at graveyards.
No, that's not our vibe. The one room that I also, other than the Devil's Toy Box, that I miss going into was that room that they had told us about in the attic. You had the surgeon's room. You had the room with the
warped room?
Yes. Like you had the room with John in it, where you had to ask permission.
To knock on the door.
Yes. Permission to go in. Allegedly, he will shut the door.
If he doesn't want you in there, you're supposed to knock. If you don't get a response, it's okay to go in. If he doesn't want you in there, he will close the door.
Which naturally we didn't see.
Yeah.
But there's a room up there called the Warped Room. And they've actually had mild possessions come out of that room. Mm-hmm. And I just thought that'd be interesting to kind of see. Because we always set our intentions before we even go into a investigation. But yeah, I would like to spend some time in there.
Yeah, it was interesting. Dave tried to go in there by himself. And that's when he got the good old David Lee. He hates when you call him by his name, but
only when he's in trouble.
He was in trouble for going in there alone because they say if you go in there alone, you're more vulnerable and more likely to get possessed. Our tour guide was telling us that the owner was in there with his friend fixing the ceiling, like spackling the ceiling. And Adam, the owner, left just to go grab something. And when he came back, his friend was just different. He was changed.
He had, what was he saying? It was,
saying, why won't you let me out of here?
I just don't see why you can't let me out of here. Let me out of here.
And Adam's like, yep, we're taking you out of here. So.
And he's like, oh, are we taking a break?
Yeah, he said he got to the stairs and he was like, what's going on? Are we taking a break? And
yeah. That room would have been interesting to do a session in, though.
It would have been. And then there was the throat punch room.
Yeah, apparently somebody was bullying that spirit because, some people, whenever they go into investigations, are very aggressive and provoking. And that's not mine and Sammy's cup of tea.
We don't like that.
No. But some people do that. And apparently somebody got throat punched by a spirit in that room trying to provoke them.
So that's the spirit's nickname. The surgeon is bound to his room. One of the volunteers bound him there because he was wreaking havoc all over the place. So they were like, no, you go in there. So the tour guide did say that you could provoke him to get him to come out as well because he's only allowed to be in that one room and he's a jerk anyway. So
yeah, we kind of were teasing Dave and Clinton, told the tour guide that, well, they like to provoke and play. And he said, be respectful to everyone else. But Otis and the surgeon have Adam. So what do you guys think of our experience? If you're on YouTube, let us know in the comments down below. Did you see anything in the footage that we missed?
Yeah, let us know. If you're interested in Madison Seminary, we definitely recommend it.
Absolutely. Dress warm if you go during their off season in the winter, though. Absolutely. I mean, gloves, toboggan, the whole nine.
But, Adam was great. He had a kerosene heater in there.
When it ran out of kerosene, he refilled it for us.
So the owner is wonderful. He's a good host, and his staff are amazing. We have only good things to say about him and his staff and our experience there.
And we go to Fairfield Infirmary here in a few weeks that he also owns, so we can't wait to interact with them again.
Absolutely. And we can't wait to share that information with you, our experiences there. If it's anything like Madison Seminary, we're in for a good night.
Exactly. Follow us on our Instagram, TikTok, subscribe to us here on YouTube, give our podcast a rate. We're trying to get this out to as many people as possible because these stories need to be told. Make sure you catch us next week in our next episode. But on that note,
Stay spooky, friends.